Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Diggy546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so I got a bone to pick. I'm just telling you, this is getting out of hand with all this Judge slander. Listen, first of all, our coaching staff at this point is just getting slandered because of something that Pat Leonard put out yesterday about Jason Garrett, saying that Jason Garrett is saying everybody has to call him coach. No one can call him Jason Garrett or Jason. Listen, first off, Jason Garrett walked out there and he answered their questions. When he was leaving, he said, "Nice to see you guys." Or I don't remember exactly word for word what he said, but he said something along the lines of, "Nice to see you guys." No one responded to him. And as a joke, just the same way you put out your hand and nobody shakes it and you just shake your own hand, he said, "You say, nice to see you too, coach." That's all he said as a joke and walked off. Then Pat Leonard goes and types up that lie, or maybe he just honestly misunderstood him. But anyway, the media picks that up. And when I say the media, I mean national media, reporters from all over the country, ex-players who love to weigh in on the Giants, like Jeff Schwartz. I don't know what the Giants did to him. Maybe the organization was so bad while he was here that he just hates the Giants. But he's always running his mouth about the Giants, man. What is going on with Jeff Schwartz? Anyway, everybody has something to say about Jason Garrett. Even though the guy is, let's be honest, we might not like the dude's play call and we might not like him as a coach. Cowboys fans might not like him either. But Jason Garrett, he's a nice dude. Like, he's a nice dude. Like, how could you make up stories and allow fake news to be spread about Jason Garrett? He honestly is one of the nicest guys who's probably on the coaching staff. So that stuff gets out, and it just all goes back to a disdain for the Giants. It's just, that's the only way you can explain this. You get the constant Gettleman hate. You get the constant Joe Judge hate, the constant Daniel Jones hate. Everybody thinks that the Giants are doing things so weirdly that nobody else has ever done it. And everybody's going to quit on Joe Judge. And the thing with Joe Judge is he's implementing his plan. He's doing things the way that he did it. He's coaching the exact same way that he coached last year, to where after we beat the Seahawks, remind you, after we beat the Seahawks, most of the national media was praising Joe Judge. They said the team is bought in. The team is overachieving. The team is this. The team is that. Now Daniel Jones gets hurt, or he was hurt after that Seahawks game. He continued to be hurt. We dropped a couple of games. It happens. But anyway, we dropped a couple of games, and all of a sudden, we miss out on the playoffs by one game. The Eagles take a dive. History is history. I don't really care about that. We should have won more games. But the Eagles take a dive. They asked Joe Judge about it. He doesn't really answer the question. They keep asking about it. And then they asked Joe Judge, what would you do? Would you ever do that? And he just gave his opinion on what he would do. And while he's giving his opinion, he's telling people, listen, we are going to be responsible for our own playoff success. For making the playoffs, we have to win more games in the first place. And the media jumps on that and says Joe Judge is some hard-nosed fake Bill Belichick crybaby. The media runs with it. Everybody's running with it. It's getting to the point now to where he can't discipline his players for anything because they're grown men. You can't give consequences to actions. Just have your team out there fighting, committing penalties, doing whatever they want to do. How many times have we seen, I mean, the first Hard Knocks, or I think the first one was the Ravens, but one of the first Hard Knocks, the Cowboys, the DBs, every time they every time they dropped an interception or they gave up a big play, the coach had them get down on the ground and do push-ups. Why was nobody complaining that? Why was nobody complaining that? And then I have reporters saying, I mean, shout out to Ralph Acciano. He said, I know some want to pin these retirements, and this is what I'm going to get into next. These retirements on Joe Judge, but he's not running a particularly hard training camp. People, think about it. We've seen clip after clip after clip from training camp. They're not just running and doing push-ups the entire practice. That was a one-off thing from a brawl that happened in practice. Everybody's saying the brawl is so bad and so awful, but the punishment for it, you can't punish anybody for the brawl. So what kind of sense are we making? We're not making any sense. And This was clearly a one-off. He does not just make his players randomly just run and do push-ups for hours and hours. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's something that professional athletes can do. It's something that kids can do. So professional athletes definitely can do this. And that's just that. Now today, this morning, Zach Fulton did retire. He is the fourth player this week to retire. And I don't really count Kelvin Benjamin because Kelvin Benjamin was released and then he retired because he's a take my ball and go home kind of player. So he's just blaming the whole NFL, and that dude's a whole train wreck by himself. And for some reason, that thing gets blamed on Joe Judge too. But if you exclude Kelvin Benjamin, 3 players have retired. One thing I want to point out is 3 players on the Raiders have retired. So is John Gruden running some horrible, hellacious training camp? Or are these players just retiring because they're old? They put themselves through a couple of padded practices. They waited and to see how their body responded, and then they just called it quits. Happens every year. Again, 3 players have retired on the Raiders, 3 have retired on the Giants. I'm sure other players have retired from other teams all across the year, especially in a year where some players have had a year off. Some players are trying to decide if they want to get the vaccine or not. You don't know what's going on at this particular point in time. Todd Davis, let's pull up the Todd Davis quote. I have it right here. This is Mike Kliss, and he says that Davis said he made up his mind last night, or this was a couple of days ago. This was on August 3rd. But he made up his mind on August 2nd while he was in the hotel room. It was great there. I feel like they have a great coaching staff. There's lots of coaches there who care about their players doing well. So I expect them to do well. And that's a professional thing he could have said. But being real, the dude was not going to be a starter for us. He was a depth signing. And he did not have anything bad to say about the Giants or Joe Judge. Todd Davis completely gave his opinion, left, retired. Don't you think if all these players hated Joe Judge so much and they weren't signed to guaranteed money contracts, that they would simply go to Judge or go to Gettleman or go to whoever that they can go to and just say, I want to be released. I want to go to a different team. Do you really think that they wouldn't get rid of him? You really think that they wouldn't release him because we need Todd Davis to make sure that our defense is going to be good? They grant his release and he'd be on another team. I mean, whenever someone else decided to sign him. So these players, I'm convinced that maybe one of these players will come back probably midway through the season if there's an injury, just because they were here. You know, they kind of learned a little bit of the playbook, especially Joe Looney. He's very familiar with Jason Garrett. So I'm convinced maybe one of these players would return if some injuries happen. Joe Judge said that the door is open for return. But other than that, relax on Joe Judge. He's doing his thing. He's doing what worked last year where there was no media in training camp. And I'm starting to think, even though I love the reports and the video and the clips that are coming out of training camp, and I do, again, I'm very appreciative of these beat reporters who were putting in this work and going to camp and documenting everything. So we as fans who aren't invited to any of these practices besides the 11th can know what's going on. Last year, we didn't see that. Last year, there were no media at training camp, and everything went well. So can we just relax on regular training camp activity, on Joe Judge getting destroyed by the media? Michael Irvin is one of the only people who hasn't destroyed him. You got a band of ex-Chief players. I don't know what the Chiefs have to do with anything, and now the Chiefs are on my list. I'm going to remember that. The Chiefs are on my list. A whole bunch of ex-Chiefs players typing on Twitter. We got someone who likes, grabbing guys like this. We got a grabber like this that's talking about Joe Judge on Twitter. We got a couple of other guys who played for the Chiefs for some reason, just gossiping and talking about Joe Judge on Twitter. Is hilarious to me because no one was saying any of this when we were winning games last year. And sure, the Giants didn't win 12, 13 games last year, but we were overachieving and we were in a bunch of games that we shouldn't have been in. And all that blame went towards Daniel Jones. So the blame is being taken off of Daniel Jones at this point, and now it's being all shifted back to Joe Judge. when in reality, everybody was saying that the team bought in last year. So again, open, use your eyes, use your common sense, and understand what's going on here. Another player has retired, another veteran player who wasn't going to play, who just went through a couple of padded practices and decided it was time for him to go. He just started a business this offseason. His family is still all the way in Texas. I'm sure his kids are in school. He didn't want to pull them out. The dude is retiring. If he wanted to play for another team, he would be on another team as we speak. So let's relax, people. I mean, I've seen all kinds of crazy things. And then the funniest thing about this is that Wes Steinberg, the GOAT Wes Steinberg, the fake Twitter account, the troll account on Twitter, is making up the wildest stories about Joe Judge walking up to people and telling them to do push-ups. And reputable reporters are retweeting this and eating this up. And I'm retweeting it for jokes. Maybe I should stop retweeting it because people take everything so seriously. But these people are really reacting to these posts by a literal troll account and criticizing the way that Joe Judge is coaching. And then you got Rob Saleh out there for the Jets criticizing the way that Joe Judge is coaching. How about you worry about pulling the Jets out of mediocrity? How about you worry about that? I mean, let's be real. The Jets have not been significant in any way since Joe Namath. We can talk about Rex Ryan and the big mouth, big belly coach that is Rex Ryan, but let's be real. They haven't won a Super Bowl since Joe Namath. So lay off of what the Giants are doing and worry about what you're doing. And this is a message to the entire NFL. Joe Judge is doing his thing, and get out of the way. You made it this deep into the video. Come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.